Did you know that every single rodent Pokemon is either an electric type or a normal type? It makes a lot of sense when you consider Pokemon's trends. Every generation has a Route 1 rodent, and every generation has a Pikachu clone. This video is going to include all of Pokemon's rodents, as well as other small mammals, as part of my Pokemon genetic tree project. Before we get to rodents, we have to cover a group called the Glirres. Rodents are Glirres, however Glirres also include Lagomorphs, or rabbits. One of the main differences between these groups are that Lagomorphs have 2 extra incisors. Because of this, they need extra fiber, hence why we have the stereotype of rabbits loving carrots. The rabbits of Pokemon are very difficult to categorize, as many of them are very generic. However, I've managed to separate them into some groups. Within the humanoid rabbits, or the not safe for work rabbits, we have Cinderace and Lopunny. These are obviously the least closely related to the rest of the rabbits as they look so humanoid. Moving on to rabbits you don't need incognito for, I've divided them into size. Within the smaller rabbits we have Plusle and Minun, as well as Calyrex. Calyrex is some sort of weird deer rabbit thing, and I'm not 100% sure it is a rabbit, but it doesn't fit anywhere else very well, so I've put it here. Within the larger rabbits we have Diggersby, who still remains some of that humanoid shaping. We also get 2 of the hardest Pokemon to place on the whole list, Audino and Exploud. I didn't realise that these 2 were rabbits, or rabbit-like, until I really looked into it. And, considering they're both sound-based, it makes sense that these 2 would be very closely related. The final 2 rabbits are Azumarill and Wigglytuff, who look very similar in their body types. The fact that they share a fairy typing also suggests that they're closely related. Moving on to the rodent Pokemon, we can divide them into 3 distinct groups: Hystricomorpha, Skyriomorpha, and Muriadaea. Hystricomorpha is the group that includes guinea pigs and chinchillas. The Pokemon representatives of these are Morpeko and Cinccino. It's strange that Pokemon hasn't developed a capybara Pokemon, considering its large online following. This would also be in this grouping. Skyriomorpha is the technical term for squirrels. This includes the typical tree squirrel, which is Greedent, as well as the flying squirrel and Mulga. Animals that we might not think of as being squirrels are also in this group. Ground squirrels include chipmunks, who look a lot like squirrels, but also marmots, prairie dogs, and groundhogs. Pachirisu is obviously a chipmunk, and Pawmot is obviously a marmot. However, I'm not 100% sure whether Watchog is a prairie dog or a groundhog, or some combination between the 2 of them. The only rodent that isn't closely related to another is Bebarrel, who is obviously a beaver. If you had to connect it to another, it would most likely be the Muriadaea, or mice and rats. Interestingly enough, Raichu and Maushold are the only mice Pokemon. Raichu could also be seen as a type of Pika, which is a type of Lagomorph, and it's where Pikachu gets its name from. As for rats, well, there's only one of them. Pokemon peaked on their rat design in the very first generation. That covers all of the Glirres of Pokemon. Instead of moving on to primates, who would be next up on the evolutionary tree, I want to include the other small mammals of the Pokemon world. Going back a few stages, we get to a type of animal that I am not even going to attempt to pronounce. This includes mostly nocturnal animals like moles and hedgehogs. Excadrill and Dugtrio are both moles, even though they're completely different takes on what a mole should look like, and Dugtrio, much like Maushold, raises into the question of what constitutes a single Pokemon. As for hedgehogs, I've decided to go off Shaman's base form and include it as a hedgehog in this group, alongside Chestnut. Chestnut has features of armadillos and pangolins, which would all feature somewhere else on this group. However, I think it has a lot more hedgehog-like features compared to all of these other animals. After this, we then have the Chiroptera, or the flying mammals. There is only one type of flying mammal, a bat. I've put the obvious choices of crowbat and swoobat in this category, but I've also included Noivern. Noivern is a wyvern, which is a type of dragon. However, I think it's more closely related to a bat than any other dragon, judging by its appearance, specifically its arms being connected to its wings. Those are all of the small mammals of the Pokemon world. If you haven't already, check out my other videos and all of the other groupings that I've covered. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking or subscribing. Thank you.